Usually when we talk about ancient texts or prophetic writings, there's a lot of ambiguity. You have to squint a little to see the picture. But the text we're looking at today, it feels like watching a high-definition disaster movie.
That is the perfect way to describe it. We are diving into the book of Nahum today, specifically the vision concerning Nineveh. And you're right, there is nothing subtle about this. It opens with whirlwinds, storms, and mountains literally melting like wax.
It's intense. Immediately, we're introduced to this image of a jealous God. And I think for modern ears, that word jealous can sound a bit petty, like a bad relationship. But that's not really what's happening here, is it?
Not at all. In this context, jealousy isn't about insecurity, it's about protection. Nahum paints a picture of a God who is fiercely protective of his people. Think of it like a parent seeing their child being bullied. The anger isn't random, it's a response to injustice. The text says, the Lord is slow to anger. He's not flying off the handle, but he will by no means leave the guilty unpunished.
Right, and the guilty here is Nineveh, the Assyrian capital.
Exactly. And remember, Nineveh was the superpower of the day. They were brutal. They built their empire on cruelty. So when Nahum describes God's path being in the whirlwind and the storm, it's a message to the superpower. You think you're unshakable? You think you're the storm? No, there is something far bigger than you.
There's this striking contrast in the first chapter. On one hand, you have rocks breaking apart and the earth trembling. But then, right in the middle of that chaos, there's this beautiful image. Behold, on the mountains, the feet of him who brings good news, who publishes peace.
I love that verse. It's cinematic. Imagine the camera panning away from the destruction of the oppressor over to the hills of Judah. For them, this terrifying destruction of their enemy is actually the sound of freedom. The yoke is being broken. It's relief.
But then we move into chapter 2 and the camera zooms right back into the battle. The imagery here is incredibly fast-paced. We see chariots flashing with steel, men in scarlet, spears brandished. It sounds frantic.
It is frantic. Nahum captures the chaos of a city under siege perfectly. He describes the chariots raging in the streets, moving like lightning torches. It's almost like he's describing a blitzkrieg. And the irony is palpable. Nineveh was the military machine of the ancient world, and now they are the ones stumbling, rushing to the walls, trying to set up defenses that just won't hold.
There's a specific metaphor in chapter 2 that really stood out to me. The lion.
Oh, the lion is key. Assyria loved using lion imagery in their art and architecture to represent their strength. They were the predators. Nahum takes that symbol and flips it. He asks, where is the den of the lions? He describes how the lion used to tear prey for his cubs and strangle it for his lionesses. Basically, how Assyria plundered other nations to feed its own wealth.
And now?
Now, the sword devours the young lions. The predator has become the prey. It's a total reversal of fortune.
That leads us into chapter 3, which starts with that haunting accusation. Woe to the bloody city.
That is the verdict. It's full of lies and robbery, and here Nahum exposes the root of their success. He calls it witchcraft and prostitution, essentially how Nineveh seduced nations with commerce and power only to enslave them. But the consequences described here are gruesome. It's not just a military defeat, it's public humiliation.
The imagery gets almost difficult to look at. There's this comparison to a fig tree.
Right. All your fortresses will be like fig trees with the first ripe figs. If you shake them, they just fall right into the mouth of the eater. It implies that for all their military might, their fall will be effortless. They are ripe for destruction.
And then there's the locusts. We usually think of locusts as a plague that destroys crops, but Nahum uses them differently here, doesn't he?
He does. He compares Nineveh's merchants and guards to swarms of locusts. You know how locusts settle on a wall on a cold day? They just sit there. But as soon as the sun comes up, they flee, and no one knows where they went. It's a commentary on the loyalty of mercenaries and fair-weather friends. When the heat is on, literally and metaphorically, Nineveh's vast armies and merchants will just vanish.
That is such a lonely image. The king of Assyria is told his shepherds are slumbering, which I assume means his leaders are dead or asleep on the job, and his people are scattered on the mountains with no one to gather them.
It is the definition of a failed state. The structure is gone, the leadership is gone.
And the book ends on a note that is, well, it's chilling. It doesn't end with a prayer or a hope for restoration for Nineveh. It ends with applause.
Yes, all who hear the report of you clap their hands over you. It's a devastating rhetorical question to close on. For who hasn't felt your endless cruelty?
That really drives it home. It's not just that they lost a war. It's that the world is relieved they are gone.
Exactly. It forces us to think about the legacy of power. You can build an empire on fear, violence, and exploitation like Nineveh did. You might seem invincible, like a lion or a storm. But Nahum's point is that that kind of power is incredibly fragile. When it falls, no one mourns, they clap.
It's a reminder that justice, even if it seems slow, is inevitable. The whirlwind eventually comes for the bloody city.
And when it does, the only thing that remains is the truth of what you built. Nineveh built a legacy of cruelty, so their ending was one of total isolation. It's a heavy text, but a necessary one to understand the cost of unchecked oppression.
Definitely a lot to think about. We'll leave it there for today, listening to the echoes of that applause over a fallen empire. Thanks for listening.
If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.